Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Pam Jochum from Dubuque, and as you all know, this week the Senate released our budget targets, and we believe that we have released a budget that is workable. It will meet our priorities, but it's not going to be easy. And the governor, of course, released his budget already in January. So the public now has both the Senate budget numbers as well as the governor's. What we don't have yet is the House Republicans' budget. And what we do know is what they are going to do to our school children. I think we all heard loud and clear yesterday with all those school children here at the Capitol that they believe they are worth far more than 1.25%. But what I want to talk about today again is the governor's proposal to privatize Medicaid. Now, as you probably know, I've talked about it many times, I have a daughter with severe disabilities. She was born with those disabilities. And I know how important case managers are to helping adults and children and families in this state like Sarah and my family. I have the resources. I have the ability to really help my daughter if for some reason the privatization of Medicaid moves forward as it currently is. But what I also know is that I have a duty. I have a duty to speak up for all of those other families who do not have the same resources that my family has to care for a child or an adult child with a disability. What I know is going to happen, lessons learned from Kansas, is that if case management is privatized, these children are going to fall through the cracks. And it's happened in Kansas. So I'm going to be meeting with the Director of Human Services today, and I'm hoping I can make the case that the contract needs to be quite different than what it looks like right now. And that means that case management, now let me tell you what case managers are. They are people who have a small caseload. They are truly advocates for the children and the adults that they represent in this system. They help us navigate that system. They help advocate for the services that the children and the families receive that they truly need. And they make sure that the providers are providing those services. They hold them accountable. If I have a problem, I can call Sarah's case manager. Her name is Chris. And she has been a wonderful advocate for Sarah and her needs. She's been Sarah's advocate and case manager for 16 years. We have a long-term relationship. The way this Medicaid managed care system, the privatization of that system is moving right now is that those case managers are going to disappear. And they are going to be replaced with what they call care coordination. They've done that in Kansas, and it has been an absolute disaster for those with a disability in Kansas. So today I'm hoping that when I meet with the Director of Human Services that we can convince him that case management needs to be outside of the system, that we need an ombudsman outside of the system to advocate on behalf of citizens of this state who are incredibly vulnerable, and that we have terms and conditions to make sure that citizens, whether it's the elderly or people with disabilities or a brain injury, have what they call them waiver slots, that they are not going to be denied services. It's already happening. We already know some of our legislators who have constituents who have contacted them that have been on, for example, the elderly waiver for 9 years, and suddenly they are no longer eligible. It can't happen this way. We have a duty, and I have an incredible desire to speak out very strongly for the families and parents and children in this state who are very vulnerable and what this system is going to do if we don't intervene in some way. So incredibly important that we have legislative oversight. We passed that bill 50-0 in this chamber. The House has yet to act on it, and if they fail to do it, we need to make sure that at least that oversight piece, legislative oversight, ends up in our budget bill and in our final compromise before we close out this session. Case management will be part of the, right now is going to be privatized. And it's going to be care coordination. And Kansas, who I know has already gone through this process, their disability rights group has come out and point blank has said, lessons learned. The three most important actions that should be implemented to prevent harm, and it's switched to Medicaid managed care, and it goes through three different huge issues that need to be addressed. There's many others, but the three biggest issues is to make sure that the waiver process, which is, so this is a waiver process. You're an older person, you have some limited abilities, but you're still able to stay home, and you can stay in your home if you have someone come in and maybe help you with some cooking or some cleaning or something of that nature. It keeps them out of a nursing home. What is already happening is that waiver system is already beginning to be compressed. That is not good.
Even before DHS goes to...
It's already happening, and we weren't aware of it until it was brought to our attention just this week. The second thing that the Disabilities Right Group has advocated for is to make sure that there is an independent Medicaid managed care ombudsman program. So in other words, something outside of the provider system and the Medicaid system itself to help advocate for and help find solutions for citizens who believe that they have been denied a service that they should be getting in order to remain as independent and to reach whatever potential they have. And lastly, it says, create a robust case management that is independent of managed care organizations and the service providers. Sarah's case manager, Chris, that's her name, Chris, truly has been an incredibly strong advocate for my daughter and for the other adults with disabilities in her caseload. She and I have a good relationship. She and Sarah get along great. She understands Sarah. She knows Sarah. She's been a part of our family for 16 years. She was just at our home a couple weeks ago. Part of her job, she comes to the house, makes sure Sarah's doing well. What issues do we have? We talk about it for about an hour, and then she said, I'm really concerned. I'm not going to have a job in January. So, yes, case managers are not going to be part of this privatized system, and it is a huge mistake. Knew that before Disability Rights ever put out any kind of a statement on what lessons need to be learned from states that have already privatized their Medicaid system. We're going to head down this way, and right now the governor believes he can do this without any legislative action. He can do it unilaterally. We at least need the oversight from this branch of government, and we need to make sure that the contract, when it's finally completed, includes at least these three major provisions of lessons learned from other states that have gone down this path.
Does help us understand, so I'm an elderly person, I've gotten this waiver, I'm getting home health aides coming in and helping.
Mm-hmm.
By no longer getting the waiver, then I have to go into a nursing home.
Most
Does that
like
shift the cost to another part of the budget? I mean, where's the savings? And you might want to look at that.
Oh, no, the savings is that you keep the waiver in place. Number one, most older Iowans would rather remain in their home. They don't want to go into a nursing home prematurely. And that's why we created that whole waiver system, to help people remain more independent in their own setting rather than going into some kind of an institutional type of care. What will happen if these services are pulled back, either family members, and quite frankly, families are very different today than they were even 10 or 20 years ago, where you had a more cohesive family unit living within the same community. That isn't true anymore today. People are being pulled away because of jobs and other issues, and many times you do not have the same number of family members in your community that can help fill in some of those gaps. So the waiver is there. The waiver is there to help people stay in their own home. When you pull that waiver back, either you have to find, either you end up finding some money in your own pocket. These are poor people, or they wouldn't be on the waiver to begin with, or they are just not going to get the services, and they're going to prematurely end up in nursing care. That is going to cost the system more money. And it's not where most older Iowans or brain-injured Iowans or whatever other group we want to talk about wants to be.
Senator Jochum, the oversight in the bill, how does that expand on the oversight that the legislature already has over this?
Okay, that's a good question. So right now, the legislature does have an oversight committee. Yeah, we do. But the bill that we passed in the Senate, 50-0, created a whole new oversight committee that had stakeholders and experts in managed care, in health care, in disability rights. People from our Human Resources Committee would be a part of that oversight. They've got the expertise. Now, I'm sure we could get the five legislators that are on, the senators that are on the oversight committee, they might be able to get up to speed, but why do that when you've already got the experts in place? You can assemble that oversight committee rather rapidly, and they have the expertise to oversee as that system is unfolded in our state, and make sure that we are not shortchanging the very people we claim that we care about and want to make sure that they're going to be well cared for, and they aren't going to fall through those cracks.
Is that bill technically dead, or what's the hope?
The House did not take it up. I'm sure Mark can...
Pass out of committee.
Is there any way or any strategy in terms of trying to revive that or keep it up?
Yes.
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 Could you elaborate on what
No.
that is?
No.
Okay.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is some interest in finding another way to accomplish the same goal, and we will explore every option to make sure Iowans that need these services have somebody by their side.
And then you mentioned that you were going to speak with Palmer. Have you met with him before in this kind of setting? And I mean, has there been a discussion that hasn't happened before? Like, what would be different today that possibly hadn't happened before?
He asked to meet with me today, and so I will be meeting with him. And we have had discussions about some of these issues in the past. I think that as we all learn more about what has happened in other states, we are becoming far more informed about the shortcomings of a privatization of a Medicaid system. I mean, it's a public health insurance system that takes care of very vulnerable people throughout our nation. And quite frankly, many of the services that individuals, whether they're adults or children with a disability, have are very different than what most private insurance plans cover. And that's why we created the Medicaid system, to help deal with some of those needs that a private plan often does not provide, like case management. So yes, we have talked to Director Palmer about some of this in the past. Today I'm hoping to get into a little more detail, and hopefully when the contract is actually proposed, that we're going to see some safeguards built into it that I don't believe are there right now.